So far we've talked about a couple of types of sampling. The first one was convenience, and the second one was quota. And the problem with both of them is that they had pretty high bias, because we were just talking to whoever we felt like talking to. We weren't trying to be systematic about it or have the people selected for us. We were just selecting. So any bias that we had in ourselves for age or race or financial status, whatever, those biases would influence us on who we talk to. No matter how careful we're trying to be, there would be some we just wouldn't push our luck with because we weren't comfortable with them. So when we're talking about high bias and how can we reduce our bias, then we start looking to random sampling. And so that's what I'm going to show you today, is how to do a random sample. So random, first off, is not used in statistics the same way that we use it in our common speech. When we say random, we're talking about, just something we thought of doing and it didn't connect with other things that we had done. But when we're saying random for statistics, in a statistical sense, what we mean is that a computer chose who was going to participate in our sample, or we did it by some other method that did not have any human influence on it, like drawing a number from a hat, or those big spinners that spin the ping pong balls and out pop your lotto numbers. That's random for statistics. Okay, so let's make sure we understand that. Random for stats is computer generated drawn from a hat or the lotto balls. So make sure that's what, when you think random, that's what you're thinking about in this class, because that's what we're talking about there. Okay, back to our presidents. So we have our list of presidents. Remember, we have the political parties for every president, and then we have heights and weights for some of our presidents, but not all. And then we have whether or not the person was on money, and remember that guy's already on there. Hamilton is not a president, and Franklin is not a president either. So for this sampling activity, we're going to choose a sample size, and it can be any sample size that you want. Remember, we had 43 different people who were actually presidents, so we could choose something less than or equal to 43. If we choose 43, remember that's considered a census, and so we would not want to do that if we were choosing a sample. So we would choose something smaller. And just so that we don't take forever on this, I'm going to say let's choose 15. And normally you want to be around 30 for your sample size. That's a really good sample size. So we're going to choose a little bit smaller one just for time-wise to not take us forever. And then what we want to do is go to this random.org/sequences. And I'm going to see if I can get that pulled up here. I'll go to random.org. Oops. There it is, random.org/sequences. And then we're looking, our smallest value we want to be 1. So it's going to give us a list of numbers jumbled. So if we have a sample size of 100, for example, then we would want the numbers 1 to 100 jumbled. And we're going to give it like maybe 20 in a column, or in a row. And then here's what it'll give us. This is all the numbers 1 to 100, and you can look through and kind of verify that you see, yeah, there's 100 and there's 93, and we have, it seems like we have all the numbers. And I told it to do 20 across. There's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 numbers there, so it seems to be good. That's what random.org/sequences does for you. It just jumbles all the numbers up. So what we're going to do, we wanted to do a sample size of 15. So I'm putting 15 in there, and nope. The total, the largest value in my data is 43, so that's the maximum, the largest value that I want. And since I'm using 15 as my sample size, I may as well have random.org make my columns that. Make 15 columns, because then I know I just need that first row. So I'll go ahead and do that. My smallest value, again, should always be 1. My largest value should be the full population size. In this case, we have 43 different people who were presidents. And then the columns, I should have 15 of them because I am choosing a sample size of 15. So I'll say get sequence, and bam, there it is. It looks like I'm too shy of having a multiple of 15. That would be 15, 30, 45. And that makes sense. I should have 43 numbers here. And I can look through and see, yep, there's 43, and I see number 1 and a bunch of numbers in between. So now this is my randomly generated sequence, and what I'm going to do is use my snipping tool. I don't know if you've seen this before, but if you go to your big ball and type snipping, it'll give you the snipping tool, and then I just right click on that and I pin it to my taskbar, and it's already pinned there, so it just allows me to unpin right now. But I just pin that to my taskbar, and then I can click on it. Any page I put on my website, and I can come select the part that I want to have copied. And when you do a copy on your random.org, make sure you keep that timestamp in there. And then this is a note for you. The numbers are generated left to right across columns. So if I am trying to do a random sample, then what I need to do is use it starting in the same order that they created it. So I have to go across the columns. So I'm just going to select this region. That's the first 15. Remember, I had them do 15 in a column, or 15 in a row, sorry. So now I have 15 data points right there. And now there's a pen feature on snipping tool, and that's how I did this selection where I marked it. You can use that too. And I just actually used my mouse on this. I didn't use anything fancy to do this big circle and this underline right here. So you can do that too. And then if you go into a Word document, or in my case a journal document, where'd it go? Oh, it's over. This one. Yeah. Then you can paste it. So you just right click and say paste, and it'll paste that for you. You can go to a Word document and then paste, and then you can print the Word document so you can turn that in with your work, or fax or email it to me. Okay, so I want to use this for my sample up above, so I'm going to kind of move it up to this page. I'll just put it right here. That looks like a good place. And so what it's telling me is that for my random sample, I need to look at 21, 32, 41, etc. I'm going to put this over on my other window so I can refer back to it. So when I come up here to my list of presidents, I need number 21, and that's Chester. I need 32, Franklin D. Roosevelt. 41, George Bush. 30, 37, 17 and 22. See, and they're all in jumbled order, but I want to go from this list. And then I need 43, so George W. 519, so there's 5 and there's 19. 36, 28, there's 28, 36, 28, 18, 6, and 13. Okay, Now, I want you to notice that this is a random sample generated by a computer, and even so, do you see that it's sort of clustered and there's a couple of clumps of values that were chosen here? That's normal and there's nothing you can do about it, but it is random, so you just keep it. You don't do anything to it, and we'll just use it as it is. So then what we're saying here, I'm going to do one more snip so I have that for me to use over here. Okay, put that right over here. I'm just putting that snip on the other side so I can see it when we're looking at their party. So we need Monroe and Adams, and they're both here. So we kind of need to just check them all off again, Monroe and Adams, and they are in order on the list of parties, so that'll help a little bit. And then Fillmore, here he is down here, and Johnson, there he is. Ulysses S. Grant, there he is. Hayes, Arthur, and Cleveland. Hayes, Arthur, and Cleveland. And then Wilson, Coolidge, and Roosevelt. Wilson, Coolidge, and Roosevelt. And then Johnson, Nixon. Johnson, Nixon. Bush and Bush, both Bushes. Okay, so then we have for our sample, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Remember, we needed to know political party, so we have Republican. There were 7, Democrat, and other. So we're basically doing the same thing we did with our census, but only the 20 or the 15 that we selected. And then for Republican, we got that. Democrat, 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 4. And then other, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we could do height and weight, but remember, some of these people are not going to be on our height and weight chart, and so this data is going to be a little bit off anyway. But let's look whether they're on currency or not. Currency, did I have Washington? No. Jefferson? No. Lincoln? Did Lincoln make my cut? I think he's a 16th. No. Jackson? No. And Grant. Grant did. So I have one guy. Yes. 1, and then our no's, 14 of them. Okay, and this was out of 43 presidents, 43 different people. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Our sample size was 15. Okay, and so this was out of a sample of 15. Remember, that's how many we had that across the row. So it's out of 15, so Republican is going to be 7 out of 15, Democrat 4 out of 15, and other 4 out of 15. So we want to calculate those. 7 out of 15, that's almost half, so like 0.46, so 46.67. And then 4 out of 15, that's 26.67. And another 4 out of 15, 26.67%. And then for our yeses, that'll be 1 out of 15. And so that'll be 6.67. and our no's 14 out of 15, and that's 93.3. Okay, so we want to compare, what we want to do now is compare to our census and see how they differ. So going back in our guide here, here was our census, and I think I might use the snipping tool again. Oh, and this is my, I forgot. Okay, that's my snipping tool. Let's slide it over a little bit. Okay, so we can see, I guess I didn't wait for it long enough, but we can still see enough stuff here. In particular, we had 41.86%. Let's go back to our current data. There we go. We had 46.67% versus 41. That's actually pretty close for a small sample like that. And then Democrat 26.67. That's kind of off. And you can see the 25.58, the 26.6. So the Democrat's off a little bit. Republican is a little high. Democrat's a little low. And then the second part that we checked, which was the whether or not they're on a coin. Here's our numbers for that. We had 6.67% said we're on currency, not on a coin currency, and 11.63 out of our population. And then that meant 93.33% was not for our sample, and 88.37% was not for our population. Now, this brings up an important point. When you take a sample, if I take another sample of the presidents, even if it's still a 15-person sample, I'm probably going to get a different set of results. But it should be in the general region of what my census came out to. Okay, so what we're going to say is some of our numbers are very close, but some are off by 15 percentage points or so. This is not unusual for n equals 15, and also random samples differ from the population. And you can't help that. They just are. They're just going to be different. So sometimes we could take a larger sample, that helps, but also we have to just understand a sample is a representation of our population, but we're never going to get it to be exactly like our population. So we look at all the things that cause bias and we try to minimize them as much as possible, but we understand there will be bias, there will be a chance error that things are not exactly the same.